Okay, I want you to close your eyes for a second, but, unless you're driving, please don't do that if you're driving.
Yeah.
And imagine you are building your absolute dream home. You've saved for, like, a decade. You bought the perfect plot of land with that amazing view. You hired the best crew you could find.
This sounds like the start of a really great story. Or a very expensive tragedy.
Oh, it's a tragedy. So the foundation gets poured. Perfect. The first floor goes up, the framing, drywall. It's all looking beautiful.
Okay, so far so good.
But then the crew starts on the second floor. And suddenly, it's like they're building in a funhouse. The staircase, it leads straight into a solid wall.
Oh, no.
The plumbing pipes from downstairs, they don't line up with anything upstairs. The roof trusses are, 3 feet too short. It's just absolute structural chaos.
That is a complete nightmare scenario.
It gets worse. You grab the foreman, you're pulling your hair out, screaming, "What is going on here?" He stops, he looks at the plans, turns pale, and realizes the problem.
What was it?
The crew for the first floor was using the blueprints from 2024. But the crew for the second floor, they were using a revised set from 2026. They're building 2 completely different houses on the same foundation.
Wow. That is the definition of a structural failure. And while that sounds like just a logistical horror story, it is actually the central metaphor for the deep dive we're taking today.
Exactly. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are unpacking a fascinating and honestly kind of mind-blowing message from Pastor Tiger Strong, or Uzi Kang, from February 10th, 2026.
And I think we should set the stage here immediately. The source material is a sermon, yes. It's titled, Now All Joined Together, and it's rooted in a text from 1 Peter chapter 2. If you're listening and thinking, I didn't tune in for a theology lesson, please do not hit skip.
Please don't. Because while the context is spiritual, the application is, well, it's pure organizational theory. This is a masterclass in systems thinking, the high cost of inefficiency, and the psychology of why we resist better ways of doing things.
We're going to cover a lot of ground. We're going to look at why families fight, why businesses stall, and we have this one specific and really surprising case study. It's about an accounting hack in a remote church that, well, it exposes a lot about human arrogance.
The accounting story is wild. It involves chanting numbers to save time. I still can't quite picture it, but the data, it doesn't lie.
It really doesn't.
But before we get to the spreadsheets, let's go back to that construction site. The source material actually starts with that exact anecdote about a contractor in Michigan.
Right. This isn't some hypothetical the pastor made up. It's based on a real event. And it sets up this core concept of the living stones.
Living stones?
Yeah. The text in 1 Peter describes people as living stones being built into a spiritual house.
Which is a cool metaphor on its own, but Pastor Strong takes it in a direction I really didn't expect. He uses it to diagnose dysfunction.
Exactly. He argues that when a team or a family or a company is falling apart, our default reaction is to blame the stones. We look at our colleague and think, you are so difficult.
Or our spouse, you're just being stubborn. We assume the material's defective.
Right. If I just had better employees or if my partner would just listen, then everything would work. But the pastor's argument is that the stone is usually fine. The problem is the blueprint.
I see.
If I'm building a bungalow and you're building a skyscraper, we can both be excellent builders with top quality materials, but it's gonna be a disaster.
So the conflict isn't really a personality clash. It's a blueprint clash.
Precisely. If you aren't referencing the same master architect's plan, friction is just physics. It's inevitable. And the source brings in this really powerful historical counterexample to that Michigan chaos, Solomon's temple.
Oh, I loved this detail. This is from 1 Kings. Right?
1 Kings 6.7. It describes the construction of this massive ancient temple, and the text notes a very specific, almost strange detail. It says, the temple was built with stone prepared at the quarry. So there was neither hammer nor axe nor any tool of iron heard in the house while it was being built.
Okay, stop and think about that for a second. A massive stone construction site. There was silence.
Silent. On the site, anyway.
Have you ever walked past a construction site? It is literally the loudest place on earth.
Yeah.
You've got jackhammers shouting, grinding.
That's the point. The noise comes from correction. You hear a hammer when you have to force a joint into place. You hear a chisel when the stone is the wrong shape and you're trying to hack it to fit.
Right.
But for Solomon's temple, every single stone was cut to the exact specification at the quarry miles away before it ever arrived on site.
So when it got there, they just placed it.
It just fit. No chiseling, no forcing, no noise. It implies a level of pre-planning and unity that is, I mean, it's almost hard to comprehend in our modern we'll fix it in post world.
That is such a powerful image, because if you translate that to our lives, the noise isn't just audio. The arguments in the conference room, the stress at the dinner table, the constant firefighting, that's the sound of us trying to chisel the stone on site.
Because we didn't follow the blueprint back at the quarry. That's the takeaway. The pastor asks us to evaluate the noise in our own circles. If your workplace is noisy, metaphorically, it means there's a mismatch. Someone is working off the wrong plan.
And this leads us directly into what he calls the workplace collision. The source material shifts gears here and talks about what happens when a new blueprint walks into an old office.
Oh, this is the classic disruptor scenario. I think everyone listening has probably seen this play out.
Oh, yeah.
You have a workplace with veterans, people who have been there for 10, 20 years. They have their SOPs, they have their rhythm. And then someone new comes in.
The rookie with the bright ideas.
The disruptor. And the source describes this dynamic where new colleagues enter with a method that is beyond imagination. It's faster, it's cleaner, and it solves problems that the old guard has just accepted as, part of the job.
You would think the reaction would be a standing ovation.
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness you saved us all this time.
You would think. But humans are not logical machines. We are emotional creatures. The source lists 3 specific reactions from the experienced workers: shock, envy, and jealousy.
Jealousy feels like such a strong word for office politics. Why jealousy?
Well, think about the sunk cost fallacy. If you have spent a decade suffering through some difficult manual process, you convince yourself that the difficulty is the value. You tell yourself, I work hard, this takes grit, therefore I am valuable.
Right. I suffered to learn this system, so you should have to suffer too.
Exactly. And then some kid walks in and automates it in 10 minutes. It doesn't make you feel relieved, it makes you feel foolish, it makes you feel obsolete. The source even mentions this tension arises when the new method doesn't violate any principles. It's effective, it's compliant, but it's different.
It's the we've always done it this way defense mechanism.
And this brings us to the absolute highlight of this deep dive for me, the Beipu accounting hack. This is a real-world case study from 2025 that perfectly illustrates this tension.
Okay, let's set the scene. We're in Hualien, specifically the Beipu Church. This is described as a remote area, maybe a bit under-resourced compared to the big city megachurches.
Correct. And the context is crucial here. The finance team was entirely new. They were novices. They didn't have decades of this is how we do it baggage. They were a blank slate.
So Pastor Tiger Strong, who mentions he's been observing accounting principles for years, decides to try something completely out of the box. He creates what they call a chanting counting method.
It's a fascinating hybrid. He combined 2 different software systems and introduced a vocal component, literally chanting or reading out the numbers, to replace the traditional line-by-line manual writing and checking.
I was looking at the description of this in the notes, and it's just wild. Instead of silently hunching over a ledger, looking at the receipt, looking back at the screen, doubting yourself, they are vocalizing the data entry in a rhythm.
It creates an auditory feedback loop. By saying it out loud, you catch errors instantly and you keep a rhythm. It's almost like a pit crew working on a car.
But look at the results. I mean, the source provides the stats. They were processing over 100,000 in currency cash, checks, all these different denominations.
Which is a complete nightmare to reconcile manually.
Right. And using this chanting method, they could complete the vouchers, do the accounting entry, and clear the books in under 1 hour.
Under an hour. For the entire weekly intake. That's incredible.
So, okay, you have this breakthrough. A remote church in Hualien figures out a way to slash administrative time by, 80%? You'd assume they would share this with the big churches.
And that the big churches would say, send us the video, we need this.
Exactly.
Well, they did share it. The pastor recorded a YouTube tutorial explaining the method, and here is where the blueprint paradox kicks right in. The reaction was split.
Let me guess. The other small, scrappy churches loved it.
They did. The source says the small remote churches, the ones with few staff and limited resources, they cherished it. They saw it as a lifeline. They adopted it immediately because they have to value efficiency. They can't afford to waste time.
And the big churches, the ones with the big staffs and the fancy offices,
rejected it. They felt they didn't need it.
We're too big for your little Hualien accounting hack. Is that it?
Essentially, but the pastor did the math on their rejection, and it is devastating. He breaks down the old way used by these large churches to show exactly what their arrogance is costing them.
Okay, walk us through that math.
Okay, so in a large church setting, typically you have 3 people counting the offering. That takes about an hour on site.
Right.
Then a different person usually takes the data home to book it into the system. That takes another 3 hours.
So we're at 4 hours of labor time.
Well, it's more than that. 3 people for 1 hour is 3 man-hours, plus 1 person for 3 hours. That's another 3. So 6 man-hours total to clear the books.
6 hours.
Versus the Beipu method.
Yeah.
2 to 3 people working together finished in 1 hour total. You're comparing 6 hours of human life to maybe 2 or 3.
So why? Why would a large organization knowingly choose the 6-hour path over the 1-hour path? Is it just stubbornness?
The source diagnosis is blunt. Arrogance. It's not logic. It's being stuck in a routine that feels like work. There's a sense that we are a big organization, therefore our processes must be complex and time-consuming. To adopt a simple, fast method from a country church would be to admit that they've been wasting time for years.
It's ego. The blueprint they're following is, we are important, not we are efficient.
Exactly. They are worshiping the complexity rather than the outcome.
You know, this brings up an interesting point about who came up with this. We usually think of disruption coming from some 22-year-old kid in a hoodie in Silicon Valley. But the source makes a point of highlighting the pastor's profile.
Yes, Pastor Hu's gang is 64 years old. He's been serving for 35 years. This just counters so many ageist stereotypes about innovation. We often assume old means stuck in their ways, but here, the veteran is the one pushing the radical new method.
And not just in accounting. The source mentions his media strategy, too.
This was really impressive to me. He talks about expanding from a physical church to a global digital presence podcast since 2022, YouTube since 2025. And the key detail, he calls it the zero-cost model.
Zero cost? How?
He emphasizes that they haven't spent a single dollar on software or fancy equipment. He's using free headphones, the kind you probably have in a drawer somewhere, and free open-source software.
That is so contrary to the megachurch blueprint, which is usually lights, cameras, smoke machines, and millions of dollars.
It loops right back to the lesson of the Living Stones. He utilized the blueprint of technology to expand his territory, but he didn't wait for a budget. He just used what he had. It's a rebuke to everyone waiting for the perfect conditions to start building.
So remote doesn't mean obsolete. Old doesn't mean outdated. And free doesn't mean low quality.
Correct. It's all about the mindset. Are you building with the tools you have, or are you complaining about the tools you don't?
So we've covered the Michigan disaster, the silent temple, the jealous office workers, and the chanting accountants. What does this all mean for the listener right now? Because the source ends with a pretty direct challenge.
It does. The pastor poses 3 reflection questions that are, honestly, quite uncomfortable if you actually answer them.
Lay them on us.
Okay, question 1. How united is your family, your church, or your workplace? He's basically asking you to look for the cracks in the walls.
Okay, a personal audit.
Question 2. Can you identify a moment where you used your blueprint instead of the master's? In secular terms, where did you let your ego or your preference override the mission of the team?
That's the Michigan moment.
Yeah.
When did I try to force my second floor plan onto a first floor reality just because I like my plan better?
Exactly. And the third one is the toughest. Who are the 3 people you are in conflict with, and how can you unify? Not how can you win the argument, but how can you unify?
That requires putting down the hammer.
It requires switching blueprints. The call to action here is to identify where things are stuck or jammed in your life. The bottleneck. Is it your finances, your relationship, your team's workflow? And then ask, is there a new method, maybe a weird one like chanting, that aligns with the truth but improves efficiency?
And to do that, you have to drop the arrogance. You have to be willing to look at the remote, small church solution and say, hey, maybe they know something I don't.
You have to be willing to admit that your 6-hour process could be a 1-hour process.
It's funny, we started with a construction story, but this is really a story about humility.
Humility and clarity. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the Living Stones metaphor suggests that we're all being shaped. Sometimes that shaping hurts. Sometimes it means chipping away our old habits. But the goal is that silent fit. When everyone is working off the same plan, the friction just disappears.
It really makes you look at your to-do list differently. Am I busy because I'm productive, or am I just busy because I'm using a bad blueprint?
That's the question.
So to wrap this up, whether it's actual stones in a temple, or numbers on a spreadsheet, or even just the way you talk to your spouse,
Yeah.
using the wrong blueprint causes noise. Using the right one brings silence and speed.
Well said.
Before we go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought to chew on. We talked about how the big churches rejected the 1-hour accounting hack because they were too big for it.
Right.
It makes you wonder. We often think tradition is the same thing as the blueprint. We defend our traditions as if they're sacred. But if your tradition requires 6 hours to do what could be done in 1, are you actually honoring the work? Or are you just worshiping the inefficiency?
That is a dangerous question to ask, but a very necessary one.
Go ask that at your next staff meeting and see what happens. Thanks for diving in with us today. We'll catch you next time.